everyone, and welcome to Daily Newspaper Analysis, which is brought to you by Losico. So, actually, today it's like a new day, a rebirth, or we can say a reincarnation for our daily newspaper analysis. As now you'll be seeing it in a completely different format. So, basically, now we'll be covering the newspaper analysis along with the editorials. Then the news update, which we earlier used to cover in a news and flash segment, but now you will be having it right here with yourselves. And finally, we'll also have the legal news. So, all in all, within 5 to 10 minutes, you will be able to cover all the important aspects of the newspaper. So this will be the first article that's about the editorial that talks about the NHA on retaining the healthcare data. So because we'll be keeping in mind the elements and the things required in our legal services and a judicial services examination, and that is why, and the other legal examinations, be it CLAT or similar things, and that is why we'll be covering now the newspaper articles in the similar light. So this first article talks about the National Health Authority. Let's see why is it in news. So first we need to know that what is the National Health Authority? It is basically the body that is responsible for the implementation of the Ayushman Bharat digital scheme. So this has initiated a consultation process for the types and terms of data retention as to what type of data about the patients could be retained and for how long will that data be retained. So here we have put it out into different segments. First, we'll be talking about the need for such policies. Then we'll be talking about the balancing of the benefits and risks, and then the possible safeguards. So it says that when we talk about the need for the policies, so what we need to know is that currently the customers are free to choose between the data policies provided by the different service providers. But due to this, what happens is that the legal standing of the National Health Authority is unclear, since the NHA is not a sector-wide entity and hence it cannot form the policies. And that is why a coherence needs to be seen over here, and that is why we are in need of such policies. Secondly, when we talk about that, how can we balance the benefits along with the risks that are given with the situation? So basically, we should know that the aim here is to create a multifaceted, or that we mean multi-sectoral utility, better transition of health records for the individual while making available more data for research. So wherein it becomes easier for the patients and the doctors also to use the data given in the digital format. Whereas on the second side, it also helps the research process. For example, it will be like if we know that how many people in India are suffering due to anemia. So that can definitely help us come out with newer methods of research depending upon how many people are suffering with that, where or which area is more suffer due to a particular disease. So these things definitely can help us in research. But then this also talks that we need to be very, very sure that we are not risking the crucial and important data of the people of the country, because still we do not have the private data personal or the personal data protection bill and the other such data protection laws in the country. And that is why it will be actually holding the individual's entire health record, and that is why these privacy risks actually make us hesitant in doing so. So here it says that now how can we actually avoid these risks? It says that there should be three things that we can keep in mind. Firstly, or the first test should be that we should have a specific reason to retain such data that has been identified. So it's not like, the data about each and every person or every XYZ person also is there on the portal. We should have a specific reason why we are holding to that data. Secondly, any data that is stored should be anonymized. Yes, of course. See, it is important that how many people maybe are suffering with AIDS or anemia or tuberculosis, COVID-19, etc. But the names and particular details of these people definitely hold no importance. And that is why, keeping in mind the right to privacy of the people, which definitely is their fundamental right, so all of this data should be anonymized, which means it should be stored in bulk rather than storing with specific name and address information. And thirdly, it says that if the data fits neither of the categories, then it should be completely deleted. With this, we should talk about the second article, which is one of the most debated topics of the day, which is about the hijab row in Karnataka. So we all know about that. Why is it into news? Because recently, a few Muslim girls, they had been denied entry into schools in Udupi in Karnataka, and the objection was revolving around them wearing the headscarf, which we also generally call as the hijab. That is a religious practice for Muslim women. So let's see what is this thing. So here, two things that we need to consider in this case or in this case study are important. First is the Shirur Matt case, and the second is the Venkat Ramana Devaru versus State of Mysore case. Let's see what are these two cases. So in the Shirur Mutt case, it was held that only essential religious practices are protected under Article 25 of the Indian Constitution, which is the right to religion. Now, as we know, that fundamental right, which is Article 25, has been endorsed in the Indian Constitution. But if at all we talk about it, which kind of essential practices, which kind of practices, religious practices are safeguarded? So these are the essential religious practices. Please note here that the essential religious practices are those which are quintessential for the practicing of that particular religion. For example, in this, it was also said that later on in 2015 in Kerala High Court case, it came out that wearing hijab by the Muslim women, it does very much constitute to an essential religious practice by the Islamic women. So here definitely it says that the essential part of a religion is primarily to be ascertained with the reference to the doctrines of that religion itself, and if at all it comes under the criteria of an essential practice, and it is not violative of Article 19 Clause 2, which definitely is the reasonable restrictions for public health, morality, or even other grounds for that matter. So here that would definitely be not cannot be stopped. And secondly, this talks about the case of Venkatramadevaru versus State of Mysore, wherein the Supreme Court held that the right of a denomination to wholly exclude members of the public from worshipping in the temple, though comprised Article 26 Clause B, which is their fundamental right, but it must yield to the overriding right declared by Article 25 Clause 2 Clause B, which is there in favor of the public to enter into into a temple for worship. So this basically says that even though it's a fundamental right, it will still be accounted on the limitation of the reasonable restrictions. With this, let's quickly jump to the news updates. As we know that unfortunately, sadly, yesterday, that was on Sunday, we lost Lata Mangeshkar. So the Nightingale of India, she passed away on Sunday due to multiple organ failure. And she was also, one of the Bharat Ratna awardees. And definitely we should have homage for her in our hearts. And we should remember her by her melodious voice for coming centuries. The second one is rare dragonfly has been spotted in Seshachalam, which is there a complete range in Andhra Pradesh. So the name of this dragonfly is the black ground skimmer, or is also known as the black percher. So generally it is a very, it is abundantly found a dragonfly, but it has been seen for the first time in the surroundings of Seshachalam hills. Third, the Queen makes 7 decades of the reign. So the Queen on Sunday, we know, the British Queen, who was the first British monarch, has become basically the first British monarch to have reigned for 70 years. And basically, in the subdued celebration of this auspicious Platinum Jubilee, the Queen named Duchess Camilla as the Queen Consort. And fourthly, very good news for all of us that India has won the Under-19 World Cup for cricket. So amidst a program that was almost derailed due to the COVID-19, India finally managed to clinch the Under-19 Cricket World Cup trophy for a record extending 5th time. And finally, let's get to the last segment of this discussion today, that is about the legal news. So firstly, the Supreme Court has talked about the circumstances that can conclude to the intention to cause death. So the Supreme Court has come up with 11 pointers for concluding whether the intention was to cause death or not. Definitely these pointers can be used between for a good differentiation between murder and culpable homicide. So these 11 pointers are, firstly, the nature of weapon used, then whether the weapon was carried from the beginning or it was picked from the spot, whether it was aimed on a vital point of the body, a vital part of the body, the amount of force which was used, and the reason behind the initiation of the fight, the cause of provocation, if any existed, and whether it was done in the heat of passion or was done in a single blow or a multitude of blows, and whether the act was cruel or in unusual manner. So these are the things, the pointers that will be considered for concluding or considering the intention to cause death. And the next one is right to abortion in case of rape. So this is regarding a petitioner who was a 16-year-old and was a rape victim. So the court in her case has allowed her to abort a fetus of 28 weeks, stating that a rape victim has the right to not bear a child, as has been enumerated in the Medical Termination of Pregnancy Act. So according to the MTP Act, the termination of pregnancy required the opinion of one doctor if done within 12 weeks of conception, and 2 doctors if done between 12 to 20 weeks. But this is definitely given a further extension to 28 weeks in case of a rape victim. So this was all for the day. If you like this, please do give us a thumbs up and do subscribe to our channels. Also, if you wish to download the PDF of today's slides, you can join our Telegram channel. The link is there in the description box below, or you can simply scan the QR code that you can see on your screens right now. Also, for other crisp and exam-oriented content, please do not forget to follow us on our official Instagram channels for Judiciary, CLAT, UGC Net, and Law Finance exams. Thank you so much.